Don't worry. Just fly. Don't worry. Welcome to the Coffee and Peace Podcast, where we try to have empowering conversations on self-discovery, potential, and growth. My name is Oronde Ash. I am one of the three hosts of the Coffee and Peace Podcast, along with Talicia Johnson, a marketing expert and psychologist out of Jamaica, and Mr. Benny Walter, police officer and leadership coach in Holland. I am currently on the Caribbean island of St. Vincent and the Grenadines right now. Oronde Ash, I'm on the Caribbean island of Bequia, part of an archipelago for the nation of St. Vincent. We have, if you're looking right now, Ms. Talicia Lindo Johnson, who's in Kingstown, Jamaica, and Mr. Benny Walter, who is where? You got to pronounce that town for me.
Walta, W-A-L-T-A.
Walta. And what town in Holland? Where are you at in Holland?
I'm in Snake. I'm in top of the north.
Top of the north. And we are coming to you today to present our first episode of what we're calling the Coffee and Peace Podcast. Coffee and Peace, hoping to have some conversations with these three wonderful people you're going to all meet and love. Conversations about self-discovery, potential, and growth. Now, why? Why are we doing this? How did this all come together? And again, my name is Oronde Ash. I am presently in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, coaching the senior men's national team. Made the trip to St. Vincent on August 10th of this year, and that's where I met one of our Coffee and Peace hosts, Talicia Johnson. I met her at a airport in Miami, the Miami airport.
Yeah.
She sat down. Well, we just happened to be sitting down next to each other, and I don't find a lot of people that are going to St. Vincent in general. And then I see her, and I'm always interested. Okay, why is somebody coming to St. Vincent? And so I ask. And she says she's a marketing, and I've been trying to get the Football Federation in St. Vincent to do a better job of marketing folks. So we got a conversation about that. How does marketing work? What she's doing? She's going to be there for a week. Before she gets on the plane, I do my due diligence. Once I find out the name, I do what I think is normal. I'm realizing a lot of people don't do this. I Google her name. And it comes up. And what comes up is an interview Talicia did probably a couple of weeks before on a Jamaican podcast. I'm thinking Talicia was a Jamaican podcast.
No Jamaican, no. This lady was not Jamaican at all. She's actually from New Zealand. It's a random find, yeah.
Okay. So on the podcast, she was talking openly about some experiences she had as a youth in Jamaica, some traumatic experiences. And I was riveted to it because of the honesty. I've been making videos and talking on social media since 2008. And I find that anybody who has the confidence in their own story to tell it the way that she was doing, unafraid, unapologetically, with raw, brutal honesty, I'm like, that's somebody that's kind of on my wavelength. So when she got to St. Vincent, we found out our hotels were not too far apart. We met a couple of times and sat down. And the more conversations I had with Talicia, the more I recognized, my God, this is the person who's kind of like me, going through some changes in life, trying to figure out exactly kind of how she wants to impact the world. She's doing it through her. Now, your company is what?
My company is Coaching at the Core. Yes, I'm a leadership coach.
Okay, so she's doing
and
leadership
psychologist,
coaching,
yeah.
And psychology. Those are the two things that keyed me in. So the conversations I was having with her were nuanced in that she had a psychological underpinning that allowed her to speak to me in a way that I accepted. I was hearing from an expert, but it was plain English enough where she was not drowning me in expert speak. So I was getting the best of both worlds, and I found that to be comforting for me and allowed me to share some more. So I'm like, I put that in my head. All right, that is somebody on the same wavelength, can speak effectively, speak my language, and I can just relate to them instantly. So that was August 10th. 2 or 3 weeks later, again, I'm helping coach the senior men's national team. We go to Bonaire. And we're in Bonaire. Benny, this might have been second or third morning, maybe?
I think so, yeah. Saturday morning.
Okay, so Benny is in Bonaire and he's delivering, we can tell that you're delivering what, training to police officer?
Yeah, I'm a use of force trainer for police, and we fly in from the Netherlands to help out the Bonaire Police Department.
Okay. So he was down there doing that. I didn't know that. And a partner of his friend that comes down with him, the gentleman and I struck up a conversation. Then Benny walked in maybe 10, 15 minutes later. And I kid you not, we all sat there and we talked for probably 3 hours. We just talked about everything. And it was the same sort of situations that I had with Felicia, where it was just, you instantly recognize, okay, this person is on the same wavelength, has had the same sort of experiences. And because of that, I felt comfortable with just sharing, and he did. The next day, I think we talked for like 5 hours about
I
everything.
think so. Yeah, it was late.
It was absolutely everything. And what I recognize, I'm, middle-aged gentleman, about 48 years old. What I recognize at age 48 is if I feel those connections right away, I trust my instinct, or what I call my learned behavior. My body is telling me this person is somebody I can and should and need to speak to. It's always been that way. So I have these two profound experiences with people. And obviously, I am going through the similar process where I'm then recognizing similar people in the world. And when I do that, I'm like, I got to bring these people together. I've done a podcast. Benny's done a podcast. Talicia will become a better podcast person. She feels nervous right now, but she'll be good at it.
Talent.
You can tell, right?
Yes. So I'm like, after that, I'm like, I got to bring these people together. I think when we were leaving, Benny had sent me a picture of coffee he was drinking. Remember the coffee? There was a specific coffee at the hotel that was at the hotel.
Puro?
Puro. It was pure coffee, so puro. And the day before I left, I'd taken a picture of a rock that was a beach maybe half a mile away, and it said peace on it. So we had coffee. Benny sends me this puro coffee, so pure coffee. And I took this beautiful picture of peace and I put them together, and then coffee and peace. I'm like, I found these two people. I haven't done podcasting in a while. I love to do it. I love to share. We're all basic in the same business. As a coach for 30 years, my job is to literally create teams. Talisha just said what she does. Benny just said what he does. Every one of us is in the practice of creating teams, building better environments so people can succeed. Self-discovery, potential, and growth. That's what we hope Coffee and Peace podcast is. Talicia is the peace. Benny is the coffee. And I'm just the and. I'm just the Arande and in the middle. So that's why we're here. That's why we're doing this. I don't want to speak anymore. Let the other folks speak for themselves, and then we'll tell you what we hope this season is going to be about, what we hope to talk about, what kind of ideas we hope to bring forth, and what kind of things we want to happen for our listeners. So floor is open for you guys.
Okay, I'll start with a correction. It's no surprise that Vincentian says Kingstown. I'm in Kingston. It's Kingston, Jamaica. Yes, thank you.
Kingston.
But no worries. I'm sure Kingston will ring a bell to people who love Jamaica, like all of you. Don't worry, I love St. Vincent, and I hope to visit Holland some point.
When it's warm.
Actually, I did say that my daughter has been itching me for snow, so maybe, I don't know. We'll think of that. We'll see. But yeah. So Arande, yes, I think your story sounds pretty much spot on, except I don't think I had 5 hours of conversation with you at all, right? I don't know how you guys do it. It's like, but anyways, if I remember so well, I did very little speaking, right? I did mainly listening. Yeah, I don't think I downloaded any wisdom. All the wisdom that you got was already within you. So I did what my job was, just to be a mirror. So it was joy connecting.
And he's a speaker,
and she's
though.
Modest. And she's very modest. She's good. She's good at her job. What I liked about Talicia as well, and I'm not going to take up your time, is that I think it's the clinical psychology training. She removed herself, at least from my perspective, from whatever conversations we had, and just allowed me to kind of, just like she just did. It's coming from within you. You just bring it out. But she knows the problem. She knows how to get at it. And so there's a lessening of the ego. And that's the one thing I recognize, a lessening of the ego there, and allowing for the other person to kind of get into it. And I think all three of us at this stage in our life recognize learning comes better that way. People remember more when they're bringing it out of themselves. But That's that.
Yeah. So Benny, I think
And
it's you.
Benny,
Tell us a little bit. I don't know how much more about me, but I'm happy. I think
Yeah,
as we
well,
go along through this podcast, people learn a little bit more about my story professionally and personally. But
well,
yeah,
first of all, I'm thankful to have met you guys and Arando in Bonaire live and with you just I think a month ago, one and a month ago on Zoom. Thinking about this podcast, and every time we have a conversation, the three of us, even 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 50 minutes, it sounds like a podcast. It sounds like people who would like to dive deep, would like to listen to this because we have so much in common, although we are diverse and we come from completely different places. I'm from Europe. You guys are from Northern and Southern America. Maybe Jamaica's Middle America, I guess, a little bit. And even though we speak to so many other people around the whole globe, we see what connects us. We see what the same things we have. Next to being a use of force trainer, I'm also a leadership trainer. And you said, Ron, at least you said about listening. It's so important to put your ego, but even yourself a little bit to the side. You have to listen with your body, what your coach is telling you, and try to listen to other people like it's a empty puzzle. You don't have a picture, you don't know what the pieces are, but listening is a profession. And I think all three of us can speak, but all three of us can listen really well as well.
yeah.
so why do you think that is? Because it is a skill, and I think Benny and you and I talked about that in those 8 hours that we actually had conversations down there. It was clear because there are moments when you stopped and we literally talked about the body, like how is the body facing, how is the body feeling. You talked about the last couple of years going through some ups and downs and sort of getting reconnected with the body. The weird part in all of this for me is I've been an athlete for most of my life, supposedly to be connected with my body. But I'm recognizing after having these conversations with y'all both, but also doing some internal work over the past 6 months, is that I have not been connected with my body at all. Not at all, not to the level. So part of it was me not listening to my body. I thought I was listening, but I wasn't. I was listening to the world. I was listening to my intellect, but I wasn't listening to my body. How important, because Benny, that's a subject that you really spent some time talking about when we were in Bonaire. How important is that? And how did, I guess, all three of us get to that point where we're becoming better listeners of our body? And how important is that for folks who might be in transition or things like that?
Maybe Talisha, you can say something about it. I can tell something from experience, and I've been busy with it for the past couple of years. But I think you can talk a little bit from your background.
Yeah, I will. I'm happy to kind of tune in as well. Listening to your body. I think like sometimes it's easy for us to get caught up in our stories, and our stories are kind of interwoven with the stories that people have about us, the expectations that they have of us, the idea, the image that they have of us. And so sometimes we lose ourselves in all of that, right? And we forget to check in. And I know when you say bodies, I know it means a lot in terms of your feelings, your emotion, but it's so at an intuitive level that it's important that we learn how to honor ourselves, because within us, there's always a part of us that's our true selves that is trying to kind of show up. And if we have not really created space over our lives to honor that true self, it's easy for it to get lost, right? And I feel like, as you said, around it, we've all been on this kind of self-awareness journey, a very intentional journey to become aligned with who we feel that we were meant to be, and also be in the power of creating who we want to be, right? And so when you talk about listening to your bodies, is understanding what's going on in our heads, right? Because most times our thoughts are really not even true, right? How is that impacting how we're feeling? That has been definitely my journey as well. And then how we show up to that full connectivity. But when you talk about in listening in and tuning in, I remember one of the most, it sounds simple, but very shifting experience I had was during my coach training, right? When we had to kind of look at our values. Who are we? What is that thing that comes after I am? And when we write those words, those powerful words down, it gives an idea of who have you been? How are people experiencing you? And I think what was very shifting for me, or what was enlightening, was that we have the power to create those things, right? Respect was a very top value for me for most of my 42 years, right? Until a few years ago. And I had to confront and realize that respect was getting in the way of my authenticity. Now, that may have felt weird and uncomfortable in my body, the emotions it felt when I was actually not being authentic, because respect was so important, right? And so learn how to make that shift, or actually just become aware of it. And me choosing that, listen, at this stage of my life, I choose authenticity over respect. And how that powerful choice translated into how I show up, but most importantly, how I was feeling within my body, was a true gift. So I know we'll talk about sitting in feelings and different powerful things and being in tune with our bodies, but I also want to let people know that you have the power to choose.
The crazy thing is when people say the words after I am, it's mostly their resume.
Yeah.
And when people talk about I'm listening to my body, they at first are um, thinking about boundaries, because your head is going to be stronger than your body. If your body gives up, you can't go further. And we're trained to ignore our feelings, ignore our body, ignore our organs, and just go over those boundaries. And in a way, it's good for sports. It's good for athletics. It's and not all the time, but it brings you further. But it also distances yourself from your body, because it tells you a lot. Um, I divorced 5 years ago, and I couldn't even run 100 meters because I felt I was all overtrained. That I was overtrained for months, and I didn't understand it because it didn't work out. So that was one of the first signs that told me, like, hey man, listen to your body. Something's not going well. And then for the past couple of years, I met so many nice coaches and trainees that studied more about the body, that uh, um, explain more what your body tells you, especially your head, your heart, and your intestines and your stomach. And it's crazy. It takes a while to trust that though, because your head is much stronger, but your body is much faster. I've made decisions months earlier now, listening to my body instead of um, being rational and think about it and go a little bit further. Of course, you still make mistakes, but it's so much quicker now that I am dealing and with decisions, difficult decisions, because of listening to the body. But we're so trained about stepping away from it. I guess for you, Orlando, the same thing as an athlete, former athlete.
Still trying to be an athlete, at least being around the kids. But absolutely. And that was the ironic part for me. And now that I think about it, there are moments where I was down. Moments when I'm down, one of my reactions is to get to the gym. Get to the gym and work out. And I'm thinking if subconsciously that is me trying to get in touch with my body again. Like I've lost that connection. I think for me, for most of my life, I've intellectualized my feelings to keep them as a safe distance. There's shit that happened in my household, in my life, just being a person growing up in New York in the 80s. It was wild. It was wild. It was wild. And so part of the protection for me as a Ronde Ash was this feeling stuff. It can be haphazard. It can be give or take. It could be one day this way, one day that way. And that wasn't consistent enough for me. I valued and craved consistency. And part of consistency for me was if I cannot regulate 100% of the feelings that I'm attracting or in my orbit that are going to affect me anyway, what can I do? And part of it was kind of like what you just said, Benny. I'm just going to shut them out and focus on something else as an athlete.
Yep.
And I think that athletic thinking permeated much of my early adult life. And that's something I'm trying to sort of unpack and recognize there are other ways of living. Literally, last year was the first year in about 20 years that I didn't coach, from in August 2023 to November 2023. And there was such a thing, guys, as going out, going to a bar, having a drink, meeting people. But if you're stuck in a certain mode, in this case of me going to work 9 to 5 and going straight to the soccer field 3 nights a week and being on the field till 10 o'clock working with kids, then I'm not. And then doing this from August till May for 20 years. And on the weekends, you're doing something else. Your soul, in a sense, is in this sort of myopic field. And the last year is me sort of taking a step back and going, is this the only way to live? And I'm seeing examples of other ways of living that are not wrong. And all that to say is that I met y'all in August and then Benny in September in a place and a time where that transition is happening for me. And so maybe I'm looking for examples. I'm looking for examples, and in you guys, I see that. And I also see people who are not only want to do that process internally, but show others how to. I'm a coach. We're all coaches in one sense. If it's business, if it's clients psychologically, or building teams, or literally going to Bonaire to help form teams of police officers so they can do something. We all have this drive to kind of, okay, we've been through this. We'd like to make it so that others find the power in this resiliency and then pass that goodness along. I may be speaking for myself, but is that in your guys' mindset? Like, I've been through this shit. I don't want others to go through it. And if they do, I want to make sure that they figure out how to get out and move on stronger and better. And I think that's what this podcast is for me.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's this saying that I've heard and I've used clearly, like, out of our pain comes our purpose, right? And I say pain because, just because it's kind of nudged into us when we start feeling that discomfort or this pain, because as you describe it, Aranda, is like you're on this cycle and you're like, this is no longer serving me, to just this existence. Just being this, doing this same routine is no longer serving me. So I feel like the ability to even step back and notice that, one, is a gift, because awareness is everything, right? I think it's Einstein that says a well-defined problem is 90% solved, meaning that for you to know or even sense or be able to even subtly express that this is no longer working, I feel like is the first and most powerful step, to know that you can make a shift. You can kind of break free, break out. You can change. You can create the life that you're kind of seeking. And I've too been in my cycles and breaking cycles, and it's absolutely the gift that I want to bring to my clients, because I felt like if it took me 40 years, which maybe it's not 40 years, but if it took me so long to really be in a space of knowing that I choose, I create, I can write the script, right? There's no need to kind of just go with the flow or just take whatever comes, but be in that space of choosing and be in that space of creation. I want all my clients, I want my children, I want all my friends to jump on this kind of journey of coming into self and making more powerful choices for themselves at a faster rate. Because there's this thing that says, pain is I think pain is a must. Like, basically there's no way to avoid pain, but suffering is absolutely a choice. So pain is inevitable, suffering is a choice. And so, yes, I've changed my relationship to pain, right? I have definitely not been pushing the pain away, but really trying to sit in it and learn from it. Because unless we really learn through those difficult emotions, it's really going to be hard for us to change it. Your cycles became painful, it became mundane, it was not serving you. But then you had the courage to sit back and say, okay, how do I break this? How do I choose different? Now that is a powerful step, but I know that it can even be harder. Or actually, it can be an ease too. It depends on how you want to look at it, right?
The thing what you said, you say it's when you feel the pain, you can accept it and it's easy, or it's easy to accept something like that. And the first thing I I thought was 4 years ago. We had Corona. Work was slow. I was sitting outside in my yard. Um, had the same coffee for about 9 hours. Didn't know it was almost empty or cold. And I never thought about it that it was positive that I felt that way till you just said it. I felt like I was so down, depressed, empty. Energy was empty. Purpose was not there. There was no purpose for me. That's how I felt, and I felt that I couldn't do this anymore. And the only thing I've learned till now, well, it's many things you learn, but a thing that I've always kept in my mind was I don't want this anymore. And if as soon as that sentence comes in me, I know I'm not able to do it by myself anymore. I have to go to a therapist or a coach or a friend to speak to. And then and you said it's a good thing that you felt that, but it doesn't feel good. That the crazy part is you just know that so many days, months, years later, that's a good thing that you felt that because that's when change happened. And now purpose is different, feeling is different. I'm back in my body that I feel everything again. Um, but the moment where it shifts, the moment where it hits you, oh, you're so low because the crazy thing is you know you think you believe that you're there for nothing anymore. Like if you're that low, um, but also you feel you can't do it anymore, and then you have to search for somebody to help you, and it takes time to find the right person. Um, but it feels terrible. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I'm happy I felt terrible. You know that's what I'm. Just the thing you just said, I'm like, wow, I am happy now. I felt that terrible because since then, wow, life changed. Life
Yeah, man.
changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think when Talisa was talking about, was it pain is there, but the suffering is a choice. I think
Yeah,
part of it for
totally.
me also was, and maybe this is one of the reasons I gravitate towards young people, is that the tools are not there for them to recognize all these things that we just talked about. To recognize, like Talisa said, have the awareness to go, okay, this is the point where something is wrong. And this feels wrong in a different way. When I was younger, just it all felt wrong. It all sort of combusted and combobulated. And I had to try my best with whatever tools I had to try to figure out what was going on. And like I said earlier, I lean towards intellectualism. Okay, if I can understand, okay, why the people that are the adults in my household acting this way, okay, that's why. There was some abuse there, there was some blah, blah, blah in there. Oh, that's why they're doing it. But what happened is that I never addressed what it was doing to me
Mm.
for all
And you
this
think it's
time.
normal. You
And
think
I
it's
think it's,
normal because you haven't learned anything else. So the way you felt is your baseline. And if you had a easy youth, and then some trauma happens, and Talisha, you can help me out if I'm saying it incorrectly, though. Then it's a little bit easier to come back to your normal state. But if you had some big issues in the beginning of your life, that's your normal state, and then you have to find all over the years all these things to get to a normal state because back in the day it was bad, but you don't know it's bad because that's normal for you.
Yeah. Absolutely.
um,
Yeah, that became your basis, your foundation. Even though what you're saying to me is that you were young, you didn't have probably the words for it. As it's like your soul was telling you something is off, but then you did what felt safest to you, and you went in your head and you intellectualize your feelings, as I said. Because as children, it's normal for us, in those very early stages that we have to survive. We are built to survive. We have a brain that is wired for survival, right? There's a whole section there, right? The amygdala that puts us is either in fight, flight, or sometimes freeze mode. But there's a built-in box that we will survive. And what survival looks like as a kid sometimes will translate into our adult lives because there's no real intentional awakening. And so if if you had to just dive in your books and focus on learning, 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 and you felt better, it brought you the kind of things that you were seeking as a child, whether the attention or just made you feel good about yourself. And so you were able to kind of compartmentalize your life, put this pain in a box. You know, as a kid, I literally envisioned myself boxing up my pain, boxing up my trauma and burying it. And so your brain is doing that without even you visualizing it. And so when you show up in your adult lives and you realize that this is not the impact I want to have. This is not feeling great. You know, I don't feel fulfilled. This is not doing it for me. Or you might feel pain or something. Then you may be brave enough to go on the journey that we've gone on. Because the journey, and I say brave because you are now embracing pain. You are unpacking some of those stored stuff that you've never processed as a kid. And now you have to face that. You have to confront that and see how it has shaped your life. And that process of wanting to transform your life to what you feel like your soul is telling you. You know, this is why you're here, standing in your power, you know, being your full, living according to your full potential. Those things are now completely unknown to you. And you have to be brave enough to kind of chart those territories because that too can be a little bit scary. You're doing things for the first time differently. And so what a joy to come to a place of even being able to experience pain through that lens, right? To see pain as a gift because it's awakening something within you and it's presenting something that you need to deal with.
It is, and you feel like you're alone at first, and you don't want to tell your story. But as soon as you tell your story,
Yeah.
it starts being inspirational, and
Yeah.
you're not alone anymore because there's so many other people that have parts of or completely similar or even more of those feelings and those state of minds.
Yeah.
And having those conversations, and it's with you guys, with the right people. Right people are the people that want to listen to you, that respect you, and are on pretty much on the same path and journey close to you. Then it's so nice to express yourself and talk about it. And every time we're in this conversation, the three of us, we think like, yeah, we have to share this because you're not alone.
No, no.
Looking up the hill of all the crap you have to go through to be better is not as big as you think. It takes longer than you think, and the hill is not as big as you think. So every time I went to my first session with a new therapist, I always think of I'm out of breath. My heart is out of control. I'm trembling on the sofa or on the bed or wherever they have their session at. And every time the week before, I'm thinking that, and every time I'm in a conversation like that, I used to be in those conversations, those first conversations. I'm so relaxed and so at peace and so hopeful. I'm like, okay, now something's going to change. And you worked already your therapy towards your first session. Do you see that also with your clients, with your first client experiences, Alicia?
Absolutely, absolutely. One, I mean, I can share from the angle of one being a client myself, you know, because I do have a therapist, I have a coach,
Mm-hmm.
and also when clients come in and sometimes it's uncomfortable because I do work very well with male clients, and I remember coming towards the end of a series of sessions with one of my male clients. He was like, you know, we were never meant to do life alone. And I've shared that, his quote, with so many other clients after, because at first you're like, you're holding on to your stuff. You're like, this is my stuff. It hurts. It's painful. You know, it's not serving you, but it's your stuff. And sometimes it's hard to kind of release that in the care of someone else. Can I trust you with my stuff? Because it's ugly, right?
And you're
It's
so strong,
uncomfortable.
and we were strong to keep it in.
Yeah,
We can't anymore, but we're used to keeping it in.
yeah. And the moment you start releasing that, that is where the power starts to happen. That's where the magic starts to happen. And every time you tell your story, it gets lighter, right? It gets lighter and lighter. It's like we're carrying this invisible bag of rocks from our childhood. And every time we share the story, we're unpacking, we're offloading. And I really love that analogy because I started probably unpacking my bag 12 years ago, when I started my psychology master's. And I literally was carrying a lot. I carried a lot through my abandonment stories as a kid, right? Being separated from my father. I carry a lot through being abused as a child. And I mean, those were like, in my mind, those were too big to start unpacking. How could I ever share that with anybody? And then since then, it's been like light as a feather because I've been sharing, right? I felt like when I started practicing too, these people, and it's not just women, but a lot of women, but men too, who found me with their abuse stories. Those people are allowing me to process and to deal with and to convert this painful experience into the gift of knowledge. So because I had that experience, I could be with them in it. I could show empathy from a genuine place, but then also converting to that to the gift of to inspire. Because I had that experience, I
Yeah.
feel what you're feeling. And because I'm here today in this with this position or ability or this gift to support you, you too can heal through it. So, I have really just changed my life experience with pain. I just see pain through a completely different lens. And our brain is wired to escape pain and seek pleasure. That is like a default setting in our brain. Yeah. Run from pain, seek pleasure. But if we don't disrupt that with our intuition, or if you call it the Holy Spirit, if you call it your higher self, your higher coach, if you don't disrupt that brain activity, which is your default setting, you'll never really find the fulfillment that you're looking for.
And for me, that's the magic of meeting y'all at this sort of profound point in my life where I think you started hinting at the spiritual, something higher, because there had to be, for me, something that kept me going. I'm not saying, and again, this is the other thing we do, we qualify our pain. You go, well, I didn't have it as rough as, no, I had it rough because it was in my head. It was a version of life that was tough based on my circumstances. Sometimes when you start describing, what you went through as a child, you go, well, you're not Anne Frank. You know what I'm saying? You're not, you know what I'm saying? And so you go, well, there really had pain. What I'm dealing with isn't, but it was. For me, I didn't have a problem letting that information out. I started writing a memoir when I was 17, 18 years old, because I recognized I needed to get this out. And kind of like what you hinted at, Talicia, for some reason, I thought it was best and it was possible to go through my entire existence on this earth as an automaton, as a self-contained entity. One, because I didn't want pain from anybody. I couldn't predict the pain that I was going to feel from anybody in any given situation because of the way my house was structured. I come home from school some days and then I don't know what's going on all of a sudden. And then in the night I'm crying for nothing I did. So it seemed just safer to just, I'm going to control everything. But the recognition as I got older is the profound intuition you get even for yourself when you align yourself and attach yourself to other people. Now, I thought I was doing that. I wasn't doing that fully because I wasn't feeling, I was intellectualizing. And so I'll be one to say it. I probably damaged my first marriage and my last relationship because I trusted nobody. I didn't trust people. I did not trust people. And part of it was another word that we haven't mentioned, but boundaries. You mentioned, Talicia, when you first went to, or you first started therapy, you come up with like values. What is valuable to me? In the last 2 years, this idea of boundaries is just, wait a second. There are those things and there are these things, these absolutes to you. It's okay to tell somebody no. It's okay. It doesn't matter how they're going to feel. You say, no, I'm not doing this today. And on the island in the last 90 days, there are little things that I've been doing that I'm realizing I'm setting boundaries. Like I know, for example, that I like to work with kids and do stuff for them. So when I'm on the island, sometimes I'll be running around trying to do all this stuff. I'm going, do I really want to do it for me? Or am I doing it for them? And I'm really tired right now. I'm tired. I don't want to do this. I want to be in Beckman. I wish you guys could see the view. People were listening. I want to be looking at the Caribbean Sea right now. And it's okay. And this is the one thing I'm gaining from you, Talicia. In these, couple of weeks, months that we've known each other, and I think you mentioned it, you go back to the idea of it's okay to take care of you. And I think specifically as a Black man in America, you think that you have to, or just as a man in general, you think you have to take care of everybody else. That's part of the ego of being a man. And then it's okay to just, no, it's not about me. I gotta do this for the kids. I gotta do this for the wife. I gotta do this for the job. And you just keep freaking going on this wheel. And then you come to a point like I did last year or so, you go, wait a second, where was I in all that? I thought I was serving me by doing these things, but was I really doing it because I wasn't attached to my feelings? It's not that I was doing this stuff just, no. There were reasons why I was doing it. What I'm recognizing is it could have been so much deeper in a sense for me. It could have meant more and felt more, but also the other thing you recognize that you mentioned this again, Talicia, my ad hoc, my non-psychologist, is you have to forgive yourself for what you didn't know. I didn't know these things. I didn't feel these things. So I can't go back and go, God, if only I knew how to process my feelings better, my relationships 10 years ago would have been better. There's nothing I can do about that now. Maybe have a conversation with my exes later on to closure or what have you, because I'm sure there are things that they want to know that I just wasn't willing to share because I didn't trust. So trust for me is a big thing. And having people be able to trust themselves. Your body tells you. I think, Benny, I think you might have posted a video in one of our threads, I think it was you, of a young lady who was talking about, I think she was talking about sort of going through relationships and that the fact that we should really listen to that thing in our stomach. If we go and meet somebody, we got a pit in our stomach. That's not for us to overcome. It's our body telling us, maybe I should not be with this person right now. Maybe there's something subconsciously that my body knows is wrong. I'm at a bar and my stomach is telling me as a lady, nah, I probably shouldn't talk to that guy. Pivot, go someplace else, listen to your body. And if anything with Coffee and Podcast, I think I've come to a place where I'm listening to myself fully now, not just in my head, but in my heart and in my emotions. And if we can give folks the tools to do these things over the next however long this lasts, I think we would have done something profound. A lot of this stuff, I think, Benny, you alluded to, it comes from trauma. Now, Talicia, you mentioned sort of abuse and abandonment issues. Benny, you and I have talked about, and you mentioned relationships that ended that were tough for you the past couple of years. Do you think we must go through trauma in order to get to a place like this?
I don't believe you have to go through it. I believe if you've went through it, you have to go through it. I've also met people that had a great life and did all the right stuff, had their family, did the right stuff, still learned everything we learned. And they didn't hit any trauma. I have a coachee who said, I wonder how I'm gonna do when things get tough because I never had anything against me. So he was scared of going through some tough times because he never went through it. And we talked and he just had all the tools. So even though family members passed and the relationships ended, he went through it very well because his family and his community taught him the right tools from the beginning. And that's not that you have to be angry at your folks or your family. Everybody does their best. I believe in the core, everybody does what they can. Doesn't mean that they can give you what you need. And thinking about that, regret is wanting to change the past with the knowledge you have now. And that's why you have to forgive and go through it. So yeah, if you went through trauma, it's a good idea to find the right people to help you go through it and give you the tools.
That's right. And what you said, never judge your trauma or anybody else's for that matter. Like, sometimes we try to size up, size down our stories. And if that experience that you had brought you pain that impacted your life at some point, it's your story. And it's for you to understand it, and it's for you to seek the kind of healing that you want for yourself, right? It's something that is very important to even, sometimes it's important to have the conversation, because people hold on to their story because it's like, it's nothing. Yes, it's something. If it is impacting you today, and it happened in the past, and it still brings you pain when you think about it, regardless of what it looks like or sound like, it's yours. And it's going to only be your responsibility to heal from it. No one else will walk up and say, hey, would you like to heal from that thing that's causing you pain? I mean, I would say it, call this a message, make it a broadcast. I'm asking, would you like to heal? Come and join us. We're healers over here, and we are also on our healing journey, but no one will ever offer you that. So sometimes we have to know what truly honors us. And sometimes that, I realize, is a lesson or a muscle to build, to look within and say what it is that I need. Because as you were saying, Arande, where, you're saying as a Black man in America, as a woman, and I don't think it's in any geography, and men too will have the same experience. Like, we feel like here, once we're adulting, we have the responsibility to take care of other people. There will always be other people, whether it's a sibling, a spouse, a friend, a parent. We're always going to see ourselves in service to others. And in a way, I feel like that's our divine purpose, to be in service to other people. But I think what we have completely missed is that it's our job to fill our cup, right? So we can't go pouring in everybody else's cup. Exactly. If you're pouring from an empty cup or even a half-filled cup, right? I remember Lisa Nichols made this analogy, which was so powerful. I use it all the time, right? Every opportunity I get. She had a jug poured into a glass, and she was like, when is the right time to pour from that cup? I'm half-filled. Is it the right time? And a lot of us are pouring from half-filled cups, and even lower. It's kind of in our way of being. I can say it as a mom. Sometimes I feel like I'm an E.
As a parent,
And I'm
it's
still
difficult.
pouring. Yes, you're
Yeah.
a dad. And you too. We're pouring from an empty cup. But the truth is, in the same way that we're pouring from an empty cup, it means that we're showing up 50% to the people that we care about. And so she went on to make the analogy and to say that when our cup is overflowing, that's the time to pour. We pour from our overflow. Because if we're not keeping our cups filled, we're never showing up 100% in any relationship or any situation. We have to know what fills our cup. For me, it's coffee.
And
Oh yeah. Okay, that's a little memento though. What kind of coffee do you guys have? So it's a mini break, but what kind of coffee do you guys drink right now? Because that's the thing. Of course, it's coffee and peace. So
So I'm not biased here, but I'm Jamaican.
you have
so
Jamaican
what is it
coffee,
called?
So
Blue
of course,
Mountain? What's
I have Blue Mountain coffee.
Blue Mountain
Blue
coffee?
Mountain
Blue
coffee.
Mountain coffee.
Where's that
That's
from?
right. From
From
the
the
Blue
Blue Mountains in
Mountains.
Jamaica?
Yes, you have to visit. In fact, yeah, we should definitely make that happen. Up in the mountains that literally look view from my house.
Very
Like
cool.
literally looks blue from the view at my house. But there, yeah, all the way up in the hills,
So the
great
coffee is
coffee.
not only local; it also makes you think back of home, back of the view you have. And is it strong? Is it soft coffee? What kind of coffee is it?
Oh, it's definitely strong. In fact, it's sometimes when
That's
I
the rum.
travel,
That's the
I
Jamaican rum that
struggle.
you put in there.
By the way,
What's
if
the
it's a little bit late, in the maybe 11 a.m. time, I would put some rum cream, which is some Jamaican rum cream in my coffee, right? Maybe you're
what's
doing whiskey.
what's the Jamaican rum with the yellow? It's got like a yellow accent on the bottle. What's that? What's the main Jamaican rum?
Am I going to talk about rums? Maybe not. But we
Is
do
Maybe
it
have
is
some
not.
it
great rums, right?
rum
I
and
would
peace?
No, 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 no,
Well,
no.
we are good. We have, I mean, a very known white rum, which is Red Nephew White
That's
Rum.
the one. That's the one. That's the one.
Yes, I'll actually let them pay for this, right? But yes, and then we have Appleton. You know, there was a time when I was responsible for marketing Appleton. It's an excellent aged rum, dark rum. It's very good. But hey,
Mm. Back to the coffee.
back to the
Arande, what kind of coffee do you
coffee.
drink?
Thank you.
I'm not particular with my coffee.
What
So
at
anything
this
that's
moment?
available.
What is it at this moment?
I can't even remember, guys. I cannot even remember at this point.
Right.
We don't have a Blue Mountain. We're not as sophisticated in St. Vincent as they are in Jamaica with their coffee production. So we don't have our own. At least I think we don't. I have to do some research to find out. We're tea. We're British people, so we everybody drinks tea, but I prefer coffee. I much
Don't
prefer
worry. I
coffee.
will fix that. I will clearly have to mail him a pack of Blue
Hmm.
Mountain coffee for
Yeah,
Christmas,
here
right?
too.
Now you know for the next 4 months I cannot have anything to do with Jamaica, so I'll drink that after March 25th.
It's your
So March
After
choice.
March
25th, you
25th.
guys have to play for the qualification of the Gold Cup for soccer. Yep.
So if anybody who doesn't know, again, I'm assistant coach for the national team of my country, the island of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and through sheer force or God divinely talking, my country has to go to Jamaica to play Talicia Lindo Johnson's country in March of next year to get a chance to qualify to go to the Gold Cup. So there's a little bit of a internal struggle right now between myself and Talicia under the surface.
I
So I'm
promise
not
it's all
accepting.
internal for him.
And we're trying to find a sponsor
Yeah.
deal for this podcast so I can fly
Yes.
Yes.
and come over
Anybody.
there and get some good
Yes.
coffee.
I clearly need to talk to some coffee people in Jamaica.
I
Yeah.
know. The kind of coffee I drink here is Douwe Egberts. It's local. It's really local. It's about 9 kilometers away. It's like 6 miles away from here. And when
Nice.
the wind is right in the morning, you can smell
Oh
the
my God.
whole the whole making of the process of the coffee.
Roasting. That's what you smell in those coffee beans
It's
being roasted.
fantastic. Yeah,
Awesome.
even when I was a little boy, I could smell that coffee. So it's good coffee. Is it the best? It's not the best, but it's good coffee. And that's the thing I'm drinking right now. And yeah, I think I'm trying to every episode drink a different kind of coffee. So the Blue Mountain is really welcome. I buy a pack of coffee beans every 2 weeks. Try some different coffee. I have a favorite coffee, of course, but I like to switch the coffee. Just yeah, I get too much energy of drinking it in the evening, but it's for me it's a sort of delicacy. I just like the taste of it.
Yeah. Fully acquired to my coffee flavor, and it needs to be very strong, very bold flavors. But who knows? Maybe one day we'll just have a nice blend of Jamaican and coffee from Holland. Who knows?
In a tea bag. We have a coffee in a tea bag.
And St. Vincent, why are you guys leaving out St. Vincent? We have a contribution
The
to make. Like we
tea.
have a
We're
contribution to
putting
Have
it
make.
in a
tea.
tea bag.
We
Next
mix our
March, we have
coffees into a tea bag.
Lord. Oh, Lord. Maybe that's a great way to end this right now, this first episode. I think, Talicia, you got a great wrap up on everything. I couldn't say it better, some of the things that you were just um, talking about getting into ultimately an area where I think you can offer advice or service to others. And I think that's all what we've been doing in our individual fields. And so when I saw sort of that connection, that similarity, we're also parents, we're also folks who are not afraid to travel around the world, see different cultures, experience different things. That is a key thing that I did not take, not pride, but stock in, the willingness to do that, and that most people are not. Fear holds a lot of people back. And fear was a thing that held me back from doing so much as a younger person. And I'm trying not to have fear be part of the equation anymore. One, because I think I know enough of myself intellectually and now learning more of myself emotionally to recognize there's goodness in me. And the goodness may not be overflowing the way that you're describing, Talicia, but there's enough of it for me to give to others when I recognize that in this particular situation in my country, other young men, 16, 17, 18, 19, 25 years old, who I am looking at them the same way I looked at you, Talicia, or looked at you, Benny, and said, I recognize that. I recognize that. And for y'all, it was the positive, and I recognize that for these young people positively, but I also recognize the shortcomings and shortfalls but I also know I have enough coming in my cup that I can give. The other part of that is them being ready to receive, and that's the part that we're working on right now. But I am ready and willing, and if the results are any indication, things are going well in that sense. So part of this Coffee and Peace podcast, I guess, is us recognizing that we have overflow. We have more than enough stories, more than enough episodes where there might have been pain and shame, and how we came out of those cycles to again get to a position where we go, I think we can share this with people in a way that they can understand and move forward with to better and better versions of themselves. That's what I think Coffee and Peace podcast will be. These next episodes and hopefully long running, but I'll leave it up to you guys to let our first set of listeners have some idea, and then that might be a wrap for our first one.
Absolutely. You guys kind of created this Coffee and Peace in terms of your experiences kind of colliding, but it definitely strongly resonates with me. Coffee is a definite part of my daily routine. And it's not because I so much need it, it's because I enjoy it. I love the flavors. I fully love and own that in terms of coffee. And when I travel the world, I like trying new and different coffee as well. So I love it. And then peace. Peace is what I'm about. I am about choosing my peace. Right. So it 100% resonates with me. And I really hope that through this journey and sharing our stories, we can invite people to claim their peace, to choose their peace, to even define what peace looks like. What is that thing that fills your cup? It's not going to look the same as it does for me or for you or and for you, Benny. It will look different, but how do you define it and claim it and intentionally choose your peace every day?
And it's your company's called Coaching of the Core. My slogan is back to basics. It's not that we're there. Nobody is there. Nobody is in the end. I think we just covered our basics really well, and we can help people start their basics. And by helping others, by still growing ourselves, you go further and further and further.
Yeah, I think the core of all three of us is that we have a basic understanding of ourselves. And once you start with that, you can kind of project the best part of yourselves into others. And that's what I'm seeing with you both. And that's what I hope that we can do with whoever chooses to listen to the Coffee and Peace podcast over the intervening months. Check it out all over your social media. We'll be everywhere. Check out our Instagram. We want folks to come and subscribe and all that good stuff on YouTube and everywhere, and become part of this community that we hope to build and expand, because there's some ish going on in the world right now that I think people need some time to unpack, understand. And we're going to get into all that on future episodes of Coffee and Peace. For myself, Aranda Ash, for Mr. Lisa Johnson, for Mr. Benny Walter, and there in Holland, we say peace and see y'all on the next time.
Okay. Peace out.
Peace out.